Perfect. We got 2 o'clock. Yeah, we got 2 o'clock. We're going to call the Regional Planning Governing Board to order with a roll call. Oh, sorry. Were we ready? Are we good?
No, you're good.
My apologies.
Double redundancy here. Ed Lawson, absent. Miguel Martinez for Devin Reese.
Present.
Donald Abbott.
Here.
Clara Andriola, absent for now. Jenny Breckus, absent. Mike Clark.
Present.
Naomi Dewar. Also absent. Jean Herman. Kathleen Taylor.
Here.
Diane Vanderwell.
Here.
And non-voting member Beth Smith.
Here.
All right.
Here.
I believe we have a quorum.
Perfect. Let's do the salute to the flag. Mr. Clark, will you lead us?
Certainly.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, perfect. We got 2 Clarks. I forgot.
Fire away.
Either Clark works. I'll take it. You got it, Tom. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is going to be a fun meeting. That's pretty good. My
I've
apologies.
got a quick question before we start, though. I've never seen flags displayed this way. What is the meaning of this? Does this have some special significance? Does anybody know why the flags are displayed this way in kind of a bat wing style? I'm not talking about the flags themselves. I'm talking about the position of the flag. I've never seen a flag splayed open like this. So just a question.
I don't know.
We'll check it out, though.
Cool. We'll hop over to approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion for that? Moved by Commissioner Vanderwell. Can I get a second? Second by Ms. Herman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Off to approval of the minutes for the April 13th Regional Planning Governing Board. Can I get a motion for approval? Motion by Ms. Herman, sorry, and a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Vanderwell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Off to public comment. Do we have any?
So far, we've received none.
Perfect. I don't see anyone jumping with joy. And then hop over to consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything, or can I get an approval for ABC?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Perfect.
Second.
Second by Ms. Herman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We're cooking. 7A, public hearing, Regional Plan Amendment, RPA 23-002, Peavine Substation, possible adoption of the RPGB Resolution 23-04 regarding an amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to add a new regional utility site. The subject site is generally located on the southwest corner of the intersection of North Virginia Street and Peavine Peak Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For this presentation, we have Policy Analyst Nate Kusha.
Good evening, members of the board. Nate Kusha, Team RPA for the record. As mentioned, this is a regional plan amendment for the Peavine substation that we're going to go through. So this case is a regional plan amendment to amend map 3 of the regional plan to add a new regional utility site that will house a will house a substation rather. The Regional Planning Commission did determine that an associated project of regional significance for that new electric substation did conform with the 2019 regional plan. The subject site is generally located on the southwest corner of the intersection of North Virginia Street and Peavine Peak Road. That's on the south side of US 395 between Stead Boulevard and Red Rock. And finally, the Regional Planning Commission did recommend that the Governing Board adopt the proposed Peavine Substation Regional Plan Amendment. So, as mentioned, this is a regional utility site that will contain a new electric substation. And according to the submitted materials, this regional utility site is intended to provide a load relief to the existing Silver Lake and Valley Road substations and provide increased reliability for the customers in the North Valleys. This request will establish additional capacity to serve approved but unbuilt commercial and residential loads. and it will help mitigate capacity concerns given expected growth trends, which do indicate that that Valley Road transformer will be operating over capacity by 2024. So this new substation will help to add more capacity, therefore for all of that unbuilt development in the North Valleys. So policy PF11 of the regional plan specifies that all regional utility corridors and sites are shown on map 3 of the regional plan. Thus, a regional plan amendment is required for the establishment of a new utility site, and that's what we're considering tonight. So policy RC10 of the regional plan does identify the 7 criteria that both the Planning Commission and the Governing Board must consider when evaluating a regional plan amendment. No significant impacts were identified for any of the requisite criteria, and staff does believe that the new substation will increase reliability for customers in the North Valleys while having little to no impact on any of the above listed criteria. So with that, a motion is overhead. Myself or City of Reno staff are available to answer any questions.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have any questions on this item? I don't see any. Can I get a motion then?
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I move to adopt RPGB Resolution 23-04 regarding an amendment to map 3 of the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan as detailed in this staff report.
Motion by Commissioner Vanderwall. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Taylor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, thank you. Or off to item B, consideration and possible ratification of the Washoe County Home Consortium allocations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Shawnee Souza to start this item off for us.
All right. Hi, everyone. Shawnee Souza, Team RPA for the record. I'm going to be taking you through the ratification of the Washoe County Home Consortium funding, also known as the WCHC. I'm also going to give you a really brief update on our annual update of the Affordable Housing Tracker, and then Elaine Wiseman is going to be going over some of the project details for WCHC. So in terms of the background, the WCHC was formed through an intergovernmental agreement. This was in 1994 between Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County. This was in an effort to improve the provision of affordable housing. The WCHC receives and administers home funds and provides a forum for discussion. This discussion focuses on affordable housing issues and goals within the region. To implement these goals, the intergovernmental agreement further establishes the TRC, which is the Technical Review Committee. They are tasked with making the funding recommendations to the WCHC directors, which are our city managers and our county manager. This agreement requires the RPGB to ratify the funding allocations, which is what this item seeks to do today. So the application process begins in around October. We take submissions, and then it closes in December, so December of 2022 this year. We have 3 public meetings for the TRC. That's in January, February, and March to go over those applications. The directors review and the TRC votes to recommend the funding approval for directors, and then the directors review and discuss the funding recommendations made by the TRC and forwarded their funding recommendations to this board for ratification. This is what this agenda item considers. Elaine is now going to get into more of those project details for you.
Thank you, Shawnee. Hi, good afternoon. Elaine Wiseman, City of Reno for the record. I'm just going to walk you through the different types of funding that we're asking for ratification for today and the various projects that have been approved by the other 2 governing boards for this type of funding. So the Washoe County Home Consortium, this is for our 24-25 project requests. We received 1 application for tenant-based rental assistance, otherwise known as TBRA. We have a CHODO, or Community Housing Development Organization recertification. We have several affordable housing municipal loan program rental housing projects, and then we have multifamily rental housing new construction, 5 projects. Then we also have Home ARP, which is a special allotment that we got one time for the American Rescue Plan that we're going to go into after I go through the regular home projects. This table shows the amount of funding that's available this year. We have our federal home. We automatically have to set aside 15% for a CHOTO set aside, and we kind of put that away and we wait for those CHOTOs to come in with the project, which we did not have one this year, so that just kind of banks up. We get state home as well, that's the 256,748. We also get what is known as AUDIF, Affordable Housing Trust Funds from the state. And that goes directly to our tenant-based rental assistance, or we call it TBRA. And then we had some rollover home and some program income come in this year, so we had a little bit more to spend. The first project that we'll go over is TBRA. The TRC and directors previously determined that all AUDIF, so that Affordable Housing Trust Funds, would go to TBRA programs. So they decided that several years ago. So we put out an application specifically for TBRA programs to come forth to administer rental and deposit assistance programs. We only received one this year, and that was the City of Reno. We have a long-standing program where we serve, hundreds and thousands, actually, of people, unique individuals every year with this funding. I also put our emergency rental assistance portal. This is the second year that I've come before this board, where it was new last year, but I just wanted to remind everyone that we now do everything electronically as far as our application processing. And it's really streamlined the process and allowed us to serve a greater number of individuals. We had one applicant to recertify as a CHOTO, and that was Northern Nevada Community Housing. They've been a nonprofit developer in our community since 1989. They are truly one of our greatest partners in the development of affordable housing, with the majority of their properties, and they now have 15 properties locally, serving 40% and below AMI. So very low rents. They're smaller properties, which you're going to see generally when the rents are so low. So they met the structure, capacity, and experience, and they have to submit a bunch of information to us in order for us to recertify them. So we're asking for ratification on that today as well. Okay, I'm going to jump right into our actual construction projects. And I do have maps that follow each project, so you can just get a general idea of where each project is located. The first one is Carville Park Apartments. This is a rehab of an existing apartment complex. So there are 209 units. They're studio apartments, and it's a complete Section 8 based property. So everybody that lives there pays 30% of their income toward the rent. So it's just been a long-standing pillar in our community to serve a lot of elderly and disabled individuals. They ask for $50,000, which is really the minimum you can ask for, and they usually do that to trigger the property tax exemption. It's located just east of here, so just east of Sutro and the fairgrounds, right on the corner of Sutro and Carville Drive. Our next project is Copper Ranch Apartments. This is new construction. Again, they're asking for $50,000 to trigger that property tax exemption and a 30-year affordability period. They're at the southwest corner of Pyramid Way and Sparks Boulevard. I'll have a map after this. It's 224 units, 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms, so a great family complex. The entire property is at or below 60% AMI rents, and they're going to give us 4 home units for this $50,000, and those will be at 50% and below AMI. So there you can see where Sparks Boulevard crosses Pyramid. They're right there in that corner. It's going to be a great project for Sparks. Next is Oravada Street Senior Apartments, Phase 2. Phase 1 came through the year before last. This is 33 units, 1 and 2 bedroom. It's for seniors, and it's at or below 50% AMI. For the home units that they're going to give us for that $480,981, they're going to give us 3 home units, 1 at 50% and 1 at 2 at 50% and 1 at 30%. And we're getting a 50-year affordability period with that, which is just phenomenal. This is also another great developer that we work with closely. Location just east of Silverado, north of Audie, right over there by Rita Cannon Elementary School, a bunch of shopping and great transit locations right near there. So we're excited about that. And their phase 1, which is right next door to it, will be complete in December. So they will be getting ready to lease that up as they're under construction with phase 2. Sutro Street Senior. This is also a new construction. They're asking for $790,981. It's a 30-year affordability period. It's right across the street from here. It's actually going to be in 2 separate locations, but the bulk of the units will be right here on the corner of Sutro and 9th. It's 170 units total, studio and 1 bedroom, and they're at or below 60% AMI, and then we're getting 10 home units at 50% AMI. And this is a new developer to the affordable housing community here in Reno. So we're really trying to work with them to walk them through the process and, bring them on board, hopefully for future development as well. So that's the location. The green right above the white dot, that's where we are right now. And so it's literally right across the street. And last but certainly not least is Silver Sage Court. This is a Reno Housing Authority property. It's a rehab of their existing Silver Sage property. So it's 15 units at or below 50% AMI. They're going to give us 5 home units for that $1 million at 1 bedrooms, and they're going to be 30% AMI. And I believe they're going to put vouchers on those to help. Sometimes the 30% units are really hard to sustain because that's an extremely low rent. And so they're going to be attaching vouchers to these, which will help those individuals be able to pay their rent, and they can also maintain the property. This is located very close to Oravada Street Senior. It's on the same street, so right over there in that same neighborhood. So this is a recap of all of the new construction for our regular home. We have a total of 652 units that we're getting out of this funding, and a little over, 2.371962. So that's what we're asking for ratification today. And actually, I didn't ask that we open the 2 items together. So if we don't do that, then we will need to, you'll need to do this motion separately, most likely, because they're 2 different resolutions. I apologize for that.
I think that's our plan, is to do 2 different resolutions, just to
Okay,
be
great.
double sure.
So let me pause there and answer any questions about the home projects.
Any questions from the board? I don't see anyone. Then is it okay we take a motion on this one first and move on?
It's great.
Perfect. Can I get a motion on this item?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Absolutely.
I move to ratify the Washoe County Home Consortium funding allocation of home funds as described in this staff report and the accompanying attachment.
Motion by Commissioner Vanderwall. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Dewar. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimous. And then we'll hop over to item B2. Bingo.
Okay. This is for the home art projects. Thank you so much for passing that. That's fantastic. The Washoe County Home Consortium received a one-time allocation from the American Rescue Plan. The funds, after the admin was deducted, were about $4.3 million. They could be used for development of affordable housing or supportive services or TBRA. The catch in this was that they had to be used for vulnerable populations, like those experiencing homelessness, fleeing domestic violence, or imminently homeless. So a different target population than our regular home funds. So we are proposing to fund 2 new rental housing construction projects totaling a little over $3 million, 2 supportive services projects for about $430,000-ish, and 1 TBRA program for $253,345. I'll briefly walk you through these projects. This is the total funding. We received a little over $5 million, less the administrative fee, left that $4.3 million. And then you can see where the rest is going. We are, how we put together this funding and how we received it was by submitting an allocation plan to HUD. So we met with community members and stakeholders, and that's how we developed the allocation plan. And so that funding is pretty rigid as far as the categories that it can go into. So if we were to want to move everything into supportive services, we would have to submit a substantial amendment to HUD. So that's how these numbers got into those categories. So there are 2 development projects, and again, the home units that the funding is supporting has to target those vulnerable populations. The first project is 10th Street Apartments. This is in Sparks. This is a 30-year affordability, and it's called a loan to grant. So another different thing about this funding is they will not have to pay it back, providing that they maintain that affordability. It can be turned into a grant at the end of that, which really helps when they're doing their financing and their pro formas. It helps them to get those rents down. It will be 15 units at or below 50% AMI and 3 home units at 30% AMI for $1 million is what we're recommending. This is Reno Housing Authority developing this property as well. And then we have Line Drive Apartments. It's on 4th Street, and I'll show you maps on the next slide. Again, a 30-year loan to grant. This is 131 units total, 122 of which will be at or below 50% AMI, and then the home units, 9 of those will be at or below 30% AMI, so pretty deeply subsidized. The 10th Street property is just west of Pyramid, and it's really right in the downtown heart of Sparks. It's a great location. And then, of course, Line Drive is right there nestled next to the CARES campus, which is part of, I think, the overall plan of moving that CARES campus towards some transitional housing and housing for people to go into after they come out of homelessness. The next category is supportive services. We are requesting to have you ratify 2 projects. First, the Domestic Violence Resource Center. They estimate they will serve 156 people within the 3 years. It's supportive services. They have a great program over there in curriculum where they're teaching financial skills, housing skills, really how to get these folks that are exiting domestic violence situations self-sufficient. And then Reno Housing Authority, Carvel Court Housing Navigator. RHA has an existing property, Carvel Court, and they would like to put a housing navigator there to help people that come in there. They're transitioning out of homelessness, and so they really need full wraparound services. And so this navigator position will do that. So they'll work with people coming out of homelessness. The people will live there, and they will have the full wraparound case management, which we see people desperately need when they are coming out of a homelessness situation. There will be a remaining balance of $582,000 that we will do in this next funding round for supportive services. So we anticipate bringing back some new projects next year as well. And last but not least, we received 1 TBRA application, and that is for the City of Reno, our Reno Works program, which is our workforce development program. We are planning on providing the rental and deposit assistance for the graduates of that program when they're coming out of homelessness. We are also offering the case management. We're not asking to be reimbursed for that, so we are providing that case management as part of our ask for this rental and deposit assistance. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Clark? Commissioner Clark?
Thank you, Chair Abbott. I've got a question. It was probably the second or third slide. Can we go back to that? There was
From Home ARP or
this one.
This
that
one?
we're working on now. Right there. You passed it.
one more?
Yeah, right there. I'm new to this board, and I'd like to know a little bit more about the administrative fee. Looks like about 1.5% of the total grant amount or dollar amount. Well, where does that go? Who's collecting the admin fee? How is that? Who gets paid that? Where does it go? What type of an agreement does it take to administer this? Is that an administration fee, and who collects that fee?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So it's actually 15% of this grant amount,
Okay.
which was a special circumstance because it is Home ARP. Normally it's 10%. But City of Reno is the lead of the Washoe County Home Consortium. So we are the recipient of all the administrative funds. We administer the entire grant. So we do all of the financials. We do all of the grant reporting. We do all of the monitoring. We maintain the portfolio of affordable housing properties, and there are hundreds of those. And so that's what this funding goes toward.
So again, I'm not 100% clear. That goes to the City of Reno?
Yes, as the lead of the Washoe County Home Consortium.
Okay. So is that a standard fee across the country, 15%?
For this type of funding, it is, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I don't see any. I think we're ready for a motion. Commissioner Vanderwell.
I move to ratify the Washoe County Home Consortium funding allocation of Home American Rescue Plan ARPA funds as described in the staff report and the accompanying attachment.
Can I get can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dewar. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we are off to item C, final report of legislation and legislative items for the 2023 legislative session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have our lobbyist, Tom Clark, to take us through a brief presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Tom Clark. I am honored to be your lobbyist down in Carson City. To you and through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Clark, I apologize for stealing your thunder. It's been a long 120 some odd days.
No apologies necessary.
I hear my name and I start talking. It's just
I hear you. I do the same thing. When somebody says Clark, I jump right up and do it.
It's
So,
absolutely
good for you.
true.
Thank you.
So thank you. I'm pleased to be here today in person. The special session is still continuing. There is a scared me. I'm a little jittery too. There is a special session that is still continuing as the legislature debates the whether they're going to fund the A's stadium down in Clark County because it's Las Vegas. I didn't need to be there, so I thought I'd come up and see you in person instead of on Zoom as we've done it in the past. So as I mentioned, there have been two special sessions that were in the middle of the second one. The first special session concluded the other evening with the culmination of the CIP, which is the major funding bill for capital improvement projects throughout the state. The Republicans had originally voted against that. It did need a 2/3 because there was a tax increase, a property tax increase in that bill. They killed that. That fed to the special session, and there were some levels of negotiation because during that special session they opened it up only to that specific piece of legislation. There was no debate. It was met in the money committees and then passed out. So now we're in the second. Let's talk about the first 120-day session. The last 30 days or so have been pretty brutal down in Carson City as they moved specific pieces of legislation through a whole bunch of different issues. I'm going to speak specifically to what we did for this commission itself. Otherwise, I could be up here for quite some time, and I don't want to do that to you. Just a couple of few numbers. There were 1,228 bill draft requests this legislative session. Of those, 1,065 of them became bills. 529 of those were assembly bills. 536 of those were Senate bills. 289 bills passed and landed on the governor's desk. As of about an hour ago, he had vetoed 32 of those bills. and signed about 217 of those bills. There was a lot of speculation going into this session what was going to live and what was going to survive. Were the Democrats who control the majority of the legislature going to send the governor a lot of bills that he was going to veto? I think that, and there's a common belief throughout the lobbyist corps and with legislators that we really did a good job of working together to bring those bills to a place where everyone could be happy or everyone could be mad. Either of those two things tends to be good legislation. So looking at, and I have to say too, it was a pleasure of mine to work with each individual entity up here that's represented, Washoe County, City of Reno, City of Sparks. We worked really well together on identifying legislation that was going to have a true regional impact. The good thing about that is that only two bills that are moving forward that I'm going to talk about today. The first one is AB 213. It's Assembly Majority Floor Leader Howdige's bill. She coined it as the Housing Modernization Act. This bill, when it was originally drafted, was incredibly cumbersome on local governments. Really what it was getting at was and I appreciate the presentation that I'm following because a lot of that information would have been really good to hear at the legislature. I think that our local governments should be commended because you're way ahead of our Southern Nevada brethren as far as moving affordable housing and identifying these issues and planning ahead for the future. AB 214 or 213 exactly was doing that. Mr. Smith and I worked on the early versions of it. There were some very onerous requirements in it, whereas you would actually have to try to predict what the homeless population, what the population of folks was going to be that needed some level of affordable housing. That's an impossible thing to predict. So those issues were taken out of the bill. What was left basically is a reporting and transparency piece, and it affects the way that the processes take place from a planning perspective. So not your general construction, building construction licenses, but the planning process itself. I'm before you, but I will tell you that this particular piece of legislation mainly affects the municipalities, although I know that you all work together closely with your planners in each of the different places. And so that's something that has been signed by the governor, and I'm sure that the implementation of that will be coming forward. Really, it is when those planning applications come in, it's the amount of time that they're published on a website for the public to view them and the time that it takes for those particular applications to be addressed, corrected, and then moved forward through the process in a much more transparent kind of a way. So that's really what the essence of AB 213 was and is now that the governor has signed it. Senate Bill 81 was kind of a fun bill to watch. This was Senator Skip Daly's bill. It's a continuation of a piece of legislation that he passed in 2019. Mr. Smith and I were quite humored by the fact that there is a group of folks that were mandated in 2019, planners from each of the municipalities in the county, that were to get together and talk about projects of regional significance and what were those projects going to do. That bill really didn't have much teeth. That didn't give them the opportunity to bring forward a bill draft request. It didn't really bring forward any kind of solution to that. So Senator Daly wanted to make that whole group better. And so now leadership in the Assembly, the Senate and the Assembly will appoint legislators that will also serve with your surrounding counties. Really, it is an opportunity for everyone just to get together and say, this is what we know is coming down the pipe. And a big part of this in 2019 was then Assemblyman Daly's concern that what was happening at Trick wasn't being discussed as far as the impacts that it was going to have on Washoe County, the City of Reno, and the City of Sparks. So this continues that through 2026. This group will continue to meet. They're required to do an annual report. They'll take that annual report and they'll give it to those legislators in a formal setting. And those legislators then, with their bill draft allotments, can determine if there are specific issues that need to be brought forward to the 2025 legislative session for, debate and potential ratification. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm open to answering any questions you may have. I will note one of the bills that was vetoed was one that we worked on and got to a very good consensus with all of the players in. And that basically would have allowed for master plans to include heat mitigation measures. Really what it came down to is if you're going to build a park, it needs to have trees, it needs to have shade. If you're going to build a large office complex, you need to put elements in there that would make it so that if we have hot days, that you could find some level of relief. It was intended, of course, for Clark County, which gets to 110, 120, but we played in the sandbox anyway just to make sure that it didn't have any negative ramifications. It passed out, bipartisan relief. Governor vetoed it simply because it was an unfunded mandate to the local government. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm able to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Clark?
I have a quick one.
Yeah, Mr.
What was the number of the second bill, did you say?
Tom Clark, for the record, Senate Bill 81,
81.
Skip Daly's bill.
Okay. And then this sets up an ongoing committee to talk about the impacts of development on other counties. And this was in lieu of the bill that would have actually given us some money to deal with it, or I'm unclear?
No, so Senate Bill 81 creates that committee.
Yeah.
And it includes Carson City, Douglas County, Lyons, Story, and Washoe County. So
Okay.
those are the counties that are populating this particular group. That group then will also have legislators that are ex officio non-voting members, but participating in the process. The group will do an annual report each year between now and 2026. That annual report will be delivered to these legislators, and they can determine whether they want to move forward with some level of legislation.
But the legislation would be about taking a portion of a tax they get and redistributing it to us to help us manage the growth, or?
For the record, Tom Clark, that it was not contemplated with that particular
Well,
piece of legislation.
there were several bills that were to do that, right?
Correct.
But, so those were different, entirely different.
Yes,
Okay, and I assume those didn't pass. We would have heard about it.
correct.
Okay, so, okay. And I didn't realize that the governor vetoed that heat mitigation. I mean, there was a lot of support for it. I don't know that it was particular cost. I think it was just enhancing planning, like making sure they covered certain topics. Yeah.
For the
Which
record,
we
Tom
are
Clark,
doing in Reno
I would agree with
anyway.
that, having
What?
been, I would agree with that. I do not have the veto message, but I would be more than happy to present that so that you can, with each time the governor vetoes a bill,
Right.
he has to provide a legal or personal reasoning for doing so, and he'll have a veto message on that. I don't have it with me, but I'll make sure that through you, Mr. Smith, will get it to the councilwoman.
Okay.
Do you know what number that was? The one that you vetoed?
AB 198,
Cool.
I think. It's either, don't,
Okay. I think we got it, Tom. We'll be, unless you have it super handy.
I do not.
No
Sorry.
problem. And then on the counties, it was Carson, Washoe, Douglas, Story,
Lyon.
and Lyon?
Yes.
Cool, thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any. Can I get a motion for this one?
Motion to accept the report?
A motion by Ms. Stewart, a second by Ms. Vanderwell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
And we'll hop over to item D, presentation and possible feedback to staff regarding an update on the Natural Resources Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Nate Kusha to take us through this one again. We're excited to show you some progress we've made on the NR plan.
Thank you. Good evening again, board members. Nate Kusha for the record. As Director Smith just mentioned, we're going to go through a little bit of an update of where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going with the Natural Resources Plan. So, as you all probably know, the Natural Resources Plan was an outcome from the 2019 Regional Plan update, where we identified that further research and information was really needed in order to identify more robust natural resource policies and also to better align with the Nevada revised statutes for regional planning and meet requirements that are currently not addressed in our regional plan. The aim of the Natural Resources Plan is to serve as a reference plan to our regional plan and, of course, to inform policy discussions ahead of our 2024 regional plan update. As previously presented, we've kind of taken a two-pronged approach towards the formation of this document, with the first part being a data gathering effort and the second focusing on narratives and storytelling regarding natural resource topics of importance in our region. So, starting with kind of that data gathering side, our natural resource plan consultant, who is Stantec, has completed the data gathering phase of the plan, and we have obtained over 500 unique data layers from roughly 30 different organizations. Team RPA, as well, or in collaboration with Stantec, have organized and formatted this data in order to populate a searchable natural resources data portal, which we'll see in just a moment. And this data will also be used to inform the policy discussions, again, for that 2024 regional plan update. So our natural resources plan webpage has been revamped in order to reflect the progress that has been made on all phases of the natural resources plan. And we'll go ahead and kind of give you guys a little taste of what that looks like. So here's our new webpage for the natural resources plan. We have up here just kind of describing the plan itself, and this will take us to a data portal. We'll go there in just a minute. But first, we'll go down to this section. So simultaneous to that data gathering effort, we have been working towards the written portion of the plan. And we have been drafting the introduction portion of the document, as well as working on graphics and layout in order to, in service of efficiency at later stages of the process. As you know, we've created our 6 categories with underlying topics for the plan, and we'll just briefly go through those. We have our physical resources here, followed by biological resources, culture and ecology, sustainability and resiliency, and outdoor recreation. So on our webpage here, you can see all of these. Underneath all of these are the topics for each of these categories, and you can click these and get a little brief description of each of these topics as well. So this is kind of where we're heading for the graphic look of our plan. And this is the website, obviously. So we are creating outlines, drafting outlines for each of these different topics under these categories. These outlines will soon be sent out to our category subcommittees that we've had a meeting with each, and we're going to have further, and they will review and refine these. We'll get input from them. And once these are refined, these will serve as the basis for the written narratives to be included in the plan document. So kind of going more into our webpage here, this is kind of more overview and background of the plan, gets into who we are, who our consultant is for the natural resources plan, and then we have our upcoming events, which again we'll talk about a little bit coming up, but you can scroll through these. And then some of our other engagement materials we put together. We have our Love Where You Live series, self-guided field trips, photos, etc. So with that, in addition to our content and graphic updates to the page, we have launched our natural resources data portal. We're going to go ahead and go there now. So this data portal will be managed and maintained annually by Team RPA in order to ensure that the most up-to-date and accurate data can be accessed. And this will really be an invaluable tool for Team RPA, our partners, and the public alike in having a centralized location to access natural resource data. And this will all be linked to the structure of the narrative of our natural resource plan document itself. So with that, we're going to kind of look at how this works. So this is what it looks like. You can go into our search bar here and you can type in anything you're looking for. So we'll use the example of geothermal. We'll type that in and we'll say, right now, that's the only thing. We want to search for geothermal. Hit the search and we get all of these different outputs of things we have. So this is from the National Geothermal Data System, from Nevada Bureau of Mines and Geology. We have our different data types over here. So like this is GIS data. Some of them are reports or other PDF documents. We have EMAPs, etc. But you can further refine any search you want to do. So we want to look for geothermal, and we want to look for it in relation to mining and minerals, right? So that's under our physical resources category. We go mining minerals, and we search again. That brings us down to 2 results you can see here. And, just kind of further look at it, we want to look at it from a sustainability perspective from energy. We get 17 results for that. So you can kind of see how this works. And then if you see here, we have our different data providing entities, and you can actually limit your search by any of these as well. So if you go to the advanced search here, we can go all sources, and we want just Nevada Bureau of Mines and Geology. And that'll, of course, just bring up those results. So, and then additionally, you can search by data type too. You can see all the different data types we have here. So it's a pretty cool tool. You guys are welcome to jump in there, check it out, search around for all the data we've gotten. We are developing a method to get community input on the data portal. We'll be looking for that at our upcoming community conversation and other events we hold so that we can really refine this tool, keep adding data so it becomes more robust and more useful. So with that, we'll go back to our presentation. So, as mentioned, all of these endeavors are really in service of informing those policy discussions and providing policy implications ahead of our 2024 update for the regional plan. Information garnered from the data gathered, research into the outlined natural resource topics, as well as public input will provide a foundation for new or refined natural resource policies in our natural resource plan. And thus far, we have identified 5 possible policy additions or refinement to be included in the regional plan. You can see those listed here, and we'll get into those a little bit more in depth in just a minute. In addition to all this, our natural resource plan consultant, Stantec, has drafted a case studies and best practices to protect resources of regional significance in the TMSA memorandum. That is currently under review by TMRPA. It's in draft form, but once finalized, this memo will help inform the selection of goals and objectives for inclusion in the Natural Resources Plan, which again will inform the 2024 update. The memo reviews conservation policies, looks at a variety of case studies and best practices from other jurisdictions across the West, places like Denver or Salt Lake City, things of that nature, and really focuses on the above referenced topics, so those kind of 5 policy concepts we've identified thus far. And it's really going to provide invaluable information regarding these topic areas, and additionally where this is going to be added into our data portal, so anybody can search it and find it and utilize and cite this document as well. So moving into our policy concepts thus far. So our first 2, we have source water protection and trails. So Team RPA and partner organizations have worked extensively on both of these programs, one being the Source Water Protection Program, the other being a Regional Trails Network Program. And we're really looking to include policies utilizing both these programs into the regional plan itself. The Regional Planning Commission did hold a workshop at their last meeting and discussed the first policy concept here, the Source Water Protection Policy. And we'll be doing the same for the Trails policy concept at the next Regional Planning Commission meeting as well. These 2 concepts will also be main points of discussion at our community conversation, and that's going to be on June 29th, and I'll talk about that again in a second. The third of our policy concepts is what we're calling currently the Natural Resources Consideration Areas, or NRCA. This is really a concept born out of the requirement in NRS that the regional plan is to contain a map showing the areas that are best suited for development based on the protection of air, land, water, and other natural resources, ambient air quality, natural recharge areas, floodplains, and wetlands. So the idea with this concept here is to create a composite map of notable natural resources to be considered in the development review process. The data in this map will need to be from reliable sources and be regularly maintained. We're going to kind of look through all that and vet all of that so we make sure we have reliable layers in this map. On the slide here, you can kind of see a list of possible layers that could contribute to this NRCA map. That's still in flux, we're working that out, but these are some of the concepts thus far. And then this NRCA map, along with our current Development Constraints Area map, or DCA map, in combination will really serve as that NRS required map. Finally, our last 2 policy concepts focus on the wildland-urban interface as well as tribal coordination. So for the wildland-urban interface, or WUI, Truckee Meadows Fire currently uses a wildland-urban interface fire risk assessment map, and we're really looking at how this can interplay with regional policies and how we can kind of work together, utilize the same thing, we're all on the same page. Additionally, we've really identified the need to address tribal coordination at a regional level and are looking to include policies to that effect as well. So all of these policy concepts are just that for now, just concepts. These are kind of the things we're pursuing as good candidates to be included in the regional plan update. All of this will be vetted through a variety of different levels. We have our subcommittees for the Natural Resources Plan will be working with our Plan Commission as well as you all, in addition to the public and our Regional Plan Update Working Group, which is a working group for the Regional Plan Update comprised of staff from local jurisdictions, affected entities, et cetera. So finally, we've had a variety of engagement events, but we're going to focus on things we have coming up. So as I mentioned, we had a workshop at our last Regional Planning Commission meeting focusing on the source water protection policy concept. We'll be doing one of those workshops for each of these policy concepts. The next Regional Planning Commission meeting later this month, we'll be looking at that trails policy. Tomorrow, we will be heading to Catherine Dunn Elementary School over in Sparks and be participating in the Nevada Water Environment Association Waterpalooza. We'll be talking to the kids there and having some activities focusing on natural resources. And then we have our community conversation that's scheduled for June 9th, and that's at Bartley Ranch Regional Park. We encourage all of you to attend that.
Excuse me, Nate, one second. That June 29th.
June 29th, what did I say? Yeah, 29th. That's what I meant. So the end of this month. Yeah, we encourage all of you to attend that. We'll be focusing on the 5 policy concepts, but specifically the source water protection policy and the trails one. We're kind of farthest along on those, but we're looking for feedback on all those from the public and kind of inform then the general public on where we're at in this process as well. And then finally, on September 30th, at Rancho San Rafael, we'll be having our second annual TMRPA annual event, and this we'll be talking about our natural resources plan and getting some more feedback there. But we'll also be talking about other stuff we do at TMRPA and specifically our public infrastructure plan as well. So we encourage all of you guys to come to both of those events and participate and give your feedback. So with that, I'm available for any questions you guys have.
Yeah, Ms. Herman?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I didn't hear you mention a couple things, and I'm thinking that maybe they might be in your website, which I'm really anxious to look at.
Yeah.
And but that's wildlife, ranching and agriculture. You mentioned mining and water and tourism.
Yes, so we do touch, I would say, on all of those topics. We have our outdoor recreation category. There's a variety of topics under that. A lot of that focuses on tourism and the draw here for outdoor recreation purposes. We do have a agricultural lands topic that will have an outline, and there'll be a whole section on that in our plan. I forget the other one that you mentioned, but I believe we cover all of them.
Wildlife?
Wildlife. We do have a wildlife habitat topic as well in our biological resources category.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Good job.
Awesome. Any other questions? My only request is, can you send out a calendar invite for those 2 events? Just so we all have it?
Yes, we will absolutely send calendar invites to all of you guys.
Cool.
For both of those.
Awesome. I don't think we need a motion. We're just trying to give you some feedback, right?
Yep.
Ms. Stewart?
Yeah, excited by the progress. I'm hoping to attend June 29. So I like the way you guys are proceeding. You know, it's neat. You're always so good with the databases and the web applications. You're doing it again. So good.
Thank you.
Perfect. Anyone else? I don't see one. Thanks, Nate.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. We'll hop on to reports. Washington County School District Board of Trustees, Trustee Smith.
All right.
It's hard to see.
This is on? Okay. One of these times I'll get this figured out. So I'm going to lead with the big news. So everybody get their pens out. You will get official invitations. Those are coming soon, but the ribbon cutting for the new Jaywood Raw Elementary School is going to be August 10th at 10 a.m. We will send out formal invitations to you and to all the members of your governing bodies, but wanted to get that on your calendars now. This elementary school and the work that's been done really demonstrates best-in-class partnership. And that is also thanks to one of the members of this governing board, and that is Councilwoman Naomi Durr. So when you come to this ribbon cutting, you are going to see the best use of pedestrian paths.
Oh, cool.
Traffic safety, pedestrian safety. We are so pleased with the partnership that we've had with the City of Reno in the development of the school, the land, the walkable ways to the school, and we're really excited to show all of that work. So it's not just a celebration of the school opening, but also in the way that it was built into the community with all of the advice and the partnership that we've really had. So thank you so much. It's going to be a really, really great time, and we're so excited to open our 9th school using WC1 funds. To continue on with our thank yous, so the City of Reno and particularly council members Ebert and Martinez, who are here with us. So the city invested about $150,000 for flashing beacons in school zones, primarily in the wards of council people Ebert and Martinez, and we're really grateful for that. And the carry on to that is that the City of Sparks also recently did this too, installing a whole new school zone upgrade with flashing signs and static signs in the Sky Ranch Middle School area. And I'm going to make this really, really poignant because we had a student hit in a marked crosswalk last week. So the partnership that all of our governing entities are showing to keep our families safe, to keep our students safe, absolutely matters. And what I'm so grateful for on behalf of the school district and to all of you is that we're not talking about the county's kids or each of the city's kids. We're talking about our kids. And I love the way that all of your groups are really working with us to actually enhance the traffic safety and the pedestrian safety that we have in these school zones. So thank you so much. It's not something that we can do on our own. So we're very grateful for that. The progress is continuing for the Debbie Smith CTE Academy. There will be a groundbreaking in the fall for that. We don't have a date. We will absolutely let you know, and everyone will be invited, but that is going to be a very important part of that project too, as we welcome our region's first CTE Academy. Also wanted to share that we are continuing with our community engagement with what's known as the Facilities Modernization Plan. And so this is the review that we're doing with over 100 school sites to evaluate the way that populations have moved, the age of our buildings, and we're briefly pausing on that for the summer months. The district will still continue with that work in the background, but our community work will pause while our families are enjoying the summer, and we will be picking up with that in the late summer and the early fall. So you'll be hearing more about that as well, and I know that all of your government entities have also had a voice in the creation of this process, and some recommendations should be coming to our board by later this calendar year. And then the final thing that I want to just emphasize is just that thank you. I really can't emphasize enough how much the district really appreciates the way that we've been working with both the cities and the counties in making sure that we're maximizing the ways that we evaluate where schools should be built, how they should be built, the way traffic should really run, the increase in pedestrian access. So we really feel that we're at a great point in the partnerships that we've all been showing. It's guided us to a better place, and we're really grateful for everything. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Wow.
Perfect. We'll move on to a members and directors report.
I have a short one. No one else has.
Go for it.
Great. Okay, Jeremy Smith, the record. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Short director's report here. First off, we were able to select a consultant for the public infrastructure plan request for qualifications we put out. We selected Hansford Economic Consulting. Their primary role will be to help us decipher the jurisdictional and affected entity capital improvement programs and bring that to bear in our public infrastructure planning process. So excited to get that kicked off. We're meeting later this month to finalize the contract and scope out the specifics and get going. So we'll have more updates throughout the summer and fall on that. Further, last in April, we brought an item talking about updates to the projects of regional significance, the RPC resolution, and there was general agreement that everything looked good to go forward, and so we were bringing that forward for formal adoption at the last RPC meeting. But in the interim, between those two meetings, there was quite a bit of public comment and interest and concern from members, interested parties from the private and charter school community, lobbyists for charter schools, folks that work for Doral and Pinecrest, Bishop Manogue High School, et cetera. And so in collaboration with working with or the legal counsel, and the chair, Sarah Chavilchek of the RPC, we opted to postpone the formal adoption of that item and engage those interested parties with a subcommittee meeting. We have the Regional Planning Commission's PRS Review Subcommittee, so we're meeting on Monday to talk with those folks, get their input, really try to understand, where they're coming from. Potentially, there could be some minor changes to specifically Guideline F, which was designed to bring larger charter and private, or any school really that's not in the Washoe County School District's facilities plan, to the RPC for a PRS review. So we'll find out how that's going to go on Monday, and then I will report back how the progress goes there. So always good, to get more opinions from folks that are in the know. Finally, let's see. Don't forget about Bartlett Rants, June 29th in the evening, 6 p.m. I believe that will be, and we'll post a notice of possible quorum for the RPC and RPGB, so everyone can attend if they'd like. What else I got here? We'll be back here in August, early the second Thursday in August in this room, and just to kind of think about what's coming down, we're going to have our annual report at that meeting, so we'll be able to report statistics about 2022, and we're planning to have the lands bill item that was discussed during the April meeting, where we can bring to bear whatever the existing draft of the public lands bill would be at that time, and discuss the processes at regional planning and how those might interact, and what are the rules and criteria for bringing lands into the TMSA, and et cetera, and how the lands bill might work. So stay tuned for that one. That does it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any members' reports or anything? I don't see any. Where are we at? We are off to legal counsel's report. Ms. Prenti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jessica Prenti for the record. Nothing to report from a legal perspective. Director Smith took care of that.
Perfecto. Off to board comments and requests for future agenda items. No? I don't see any. Perfect. Public comment.
We received none.
Yeah, the room's not bustling no more. So, reading correspondence?
There's none.
Perfect. I will actually use the gavel, Mayor Lawson's favorite thing, and we will adjourn at 3:01 p.m.